Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's work session. I apologize for the late start. Several of us had some extra meetings this afternoon, and we just had to quick grab a bite to eat. Otherwise, we're really hungry. So thank you for your patience in getting started. All right, so first off, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now we're going to go on to the audience of citizens. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment this evening? We will have another opportunity at the end of the meeting to make public comment, so if anybody wants to speak later. Okay, moving on then. New business. We have the Inglewood boundary realignment. Dr. Santoro?
Great, yes. Okay, so thank you again for having me here to do the next version of the Inglewood boundary realignment. So I'm going to walk you through some slides. So for this evening, just to review the current status and background of Inglewood, also to look at the option C, which is the option that we moved forward last week from ECP, which is the hybrid option, and also to share with you and discuss the transition plan for students and families that will be impacted by this move. So just to recap the timeline, on January 7th, I presented to ECP 5 options for the Inglewood boundary realignment. From there, I was asked to take this to the community and take it to parents and families of the schools that it impacted, which was Inglewood and Gwinnett Square. And we did that, the administration, we did that on January 21st, where we had about 100 to 150 families that came out and shared their concerns, shared their questions. So that was an opportunity for us to gather feedback from the community. Then on February 4th, we reviewed the remaining options, and at that point still on the table was the original option 2, which we now are calling option A, the original number 3, and which we are calling B, and then the new hybrid option, which is an option that I'll get into a little bit. So this evening I'm here just to share that. So the background, as we all know, is the growth in the Lansdale area, which has an impact on Inglewood Elementary School, which then as a result, we have a lack of space to hold all of our classrooms there. So this current year, we had to cap 22 kindergarten students to neighboring schools, and then also 12 first graders, which then in return, we also have art and music on a cart at Inglewood Elementary. And as we know, Nash is a school that has decreased enrollment throughout the years and has space to accommodate more grade levels. So the actual enrollment, this is just a history. I went back to 2009, 2010. You can see Inglewood, where they were in 2009, 2010, an enrollment of 440 kids, and projected for 2021 school year, it will be 578. Nash at that point was 419, which is projected for next year is 417. However, I dug back a little bit further in the archives. When I first came to the district in 2002, I knew that Nash had a large enrollment. So I found enrollment numbers from 2003, 2004. You can see it had the capacity to hold 581 kids. So we do know that we do have the capacity there. So I wanted to go back and pull out a few more years. So this is the reality of Inglewood. This is what it would look like next year for 2020-21. And these projections show we are projecting 88 kids for kindergarten. And then if we would return the students that were capped in K back to 1, our enrollment would be 94. And then if we return the first graders back to second grade, the enrollment would be 84. So just alone in grades K1 and 2 for next year, we would need 3 additional classrooms. Then if we wanted to put art and music back in the classroom, we would need 2 more. That means that the reality is that Inglewood would need 5 classrooms to run exactly 578 students. So the model that we're presenting tonight is the hybrid model, and this really came out of concerns with the continued capping of kindergarten, and it also came out of the notion of disrupting 2 schools, because one of the models we had, one of the options, we were taking students from Gwinnett Square and bumping them into Nash. So what this option consists of is that it entails all the streets in the original Troxel-Keeler zone, and it also includes a portion of the triangle. So in all, we have 54 students that would be in that Troxel area, and then we have 28 students that would be down in the portion of the Inglewood Triangle, which is south of State Street. So with this option, it gets our enrollment numbers down in Inglewood. It gains back 2 full-size classrooms at Inglewood so that we can have art and music back in their own instructional space. Because with this enrollment decrease, we are gaining back space in, we're decreasing in grades 3 and 4 for next year for Inglewood. So students with this option would have the opportunity to remain at Inglewood, rising 5th and 6th graders. If they so desire to stay, they would be grandfathered in. So this shows the area, which is the Troxel area, and that would be the area of the Inglewood students going to Nash, all up in that zone. And then this is the portion of Inglewood south of State Street, the students that would be going into Gwinnett Square. So with this hybrid model, I just made a compilation of all the streets that are impacted, and just to be clear, in the Troxel area, those students will be pushing into Nash. In the Inglewood, in the triangle of Inglewood, the students down in that area would be going to Gwinnett Square, and that's 28. We will not have an impact at Gwinnett Square because Gwinnett Square is able to absorb those numbers. So we've already done some calculations to make sure that we do have the space there. So this slide really reflects from numbers 1 to 22, which shows you all the streets listed that would be impacted going to Nash. And then numbers 23 to 38 represents the portion of the Inglewood Triangle that will be going to Gwinnett Square. So the implications of the hybrid option is that, yes, we will still have some split families. Also, we have to still continue to work with extended school care and what kind of impact that would have. And as we know, the gain here would be that we do get the 2 special areas back in their classroom. So the transition plan. So we've done this about 5 years ago when we had to move some students from Knapp to Montgomery and also from York to Gwinnett. So this plan that we used 5 years ago seemed to work very well. So once approved, if this option is approved, that I would automatically notify all the parents that are impacted, and they would receive a letter directly from me explaining specifics, explaining what's going on, and also laying out what the transition activities would be for families and for students. So the first order of business after the letter goes out, we would hold an informational session at Inglewood, and this would be an opportunity for the parents. It's just really a parent night for them to come and ask questions, but it would give them an opportunity to meet. We would have Mr. Bayshaw there from Gwinnett Square, and we would have Mr. Bowen from Nash. And depending if we can have, we would have Mrs. Robbins there, and then hopefully if we could have Mrs. Swavely come back as well, just to be there that night. We would like to do that probably mid-March so that we can address any questions that parents have. That opportunity of that night is really to reassure parents that the curriculum is the same, that no matter where you go in any elementary school in North Penn, your students are learning the same curriculum. So that really is a great opportunity for parents to ask specific questions about the schools they'll be going to. So that's something that we still have to plan the exact date. So the transition activities for students, students will tour the building in May. We'll arrange for students to go and have an opportunity to tour the building of the school they'll be going next school year. They'll get to meet key staff. They'll also do a little getting to know you activity and either have like lunch or have something there at the building, and that usually works out pretty well. So whether they spend a good portion of a morning there, we have to work out all the details. Probably principal and counselor will do like a Q&A with the students, and also if we have an opportunity for them to even see some of their grade level classrooms that they will be going into next school year. So continued with transition, if parents don't have an opportunity to come to the Q&A in March to meet the principals, we also will ask principals to do in June, have an opportunity for them to do a little open house for the new families that would be coming to them, and they could bring students as well. They could tour the building. They could meet key people there. And that, once again, that's an overview of the academics, the procedures, the events. It goes a little bit more into detail about that specific school. And then finally, part of the transition plan is, which we have for all of our schools, is we have new family orientation, and that's held in every August. So if parents still couldn't make those opportunities, they would have a third opportunity to come to the school. And then I know, working with my team of principals, that they would be gracious enough if they have to do anything over the summer if parents don't have an opportunity to get to the building. So that is it. That is the transition plan.
Just a Go ahead.
Okay.
I just, regarding transition, the transition plan, two of the things that I think had come up, which you probably have in your notes, Dr. Santoro, was the question of looking at classes.
Yes.
And trying to make sure that children who were being displaced from their original school could have an opportunity to be with a friend in a class. So is that something that you have
Absolutely.
as part of?
Absolutely. We've done that before. I've actually been speaking to some parents this week that have also had those questions, and absolutely we can make that work and make sure that strategically, when principals are creating the class list, that we can make sure that students are in classes with students that they know from their previous school.
Okay, and then I think the second thing that came up in terms of transition was students with IEPs and just the care and attention that we're
Yes.
giving to those students. And, I'm sure that Dr. Rufo and, our special education team will just be involved in that.
Yes,
I think just
absolutely.
making sure that we're putting that out there, that those two things are something that we're taking in consideration when you have that initial meet and greet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for all of your work with this. I mean, already having a transition plan in place for this meeting, I think was really important for us. I wasn't even expecting to see the transition plan already, but I certainly appreciate it, along with all of the work that the entire administration did in terms of the data that needed to be collected and working out for board members who were just seeing this. There were 5 options in the very beginning, and our administration coordinated meetings and visited with parents and fielded phone calls and emails and questions about middle schools, and it really was an entire team effort on behalf of the administration. And we're just grateful that you ran a process that I think we can all be proud of, including our school communities, because I think we received letters from people who are even displaced. Their families are part of the people that are being displaced, who felt confident that we ran a process in which they felt heard. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yes, I want to concur with what Mrs. G said, yeah. I think, the redistricting is a emotional issue, and we did get a lot of feedback from the community that was involved, that they were very appreciative of how the administration handled everything, and like Mrs. G said, they felt heard. So thank you all for what you did. Really appreciate it.
So this evening, we did present this. There is an option that the board can go ahead and adopt this now if they're comfortable. The advantage of doing that would be it would provide more clarity to our parents sooner. Or if the board is not yet quite ready to vote, then we definitely would need to vote on this at the upcoming meeting in another 8-9 days from now.
Well, I think we have kindergarten registration starting, right? And we wanted
We
to
do, yeah.
finalize this for people so
Right,
that they know.
February.
It would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that we vote to approve this plan here and now.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Fusco and seconded by Mr. McBain. Do we have any further comments or questions from any school board directors? No? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up then would be the audience of citizens guidelines. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment this evening? This is our second opportunity. If you'd like to, you have to come up to the podium, please, and sign your name and your address. And I'll just read off this statement. This meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone, state their name and address, and sign the audience of citizens logbook. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments. To allow time for all those who wish to speak to the board president may ask an individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker. Okay, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Amy Becht. I live at 884 Sturbridge Lane, so I am one of the family members who will be moving my children, from Inglewood to Gwinnett Square, just that you have now approved. So I put together some words. It's not obviously going to change your decision since you've already just approved that choice, but it's just some things to consider going forward. I'd just like to communicate that for myself.
Okay.
So at this point, the decision has been approved to move approximately 80 kids from Inglewood to Nash and Gwinnett Square. When it became apparent back in January that we would possibly be moving to a new elementary school, My husband and I were instantly disappointed, upset, at this will be our children's, because we have twins, third elementary school. We were impacted in 2016 and 17, where we were sent to North Wales for a year, and then we were allowed to come back to Inglewood. So this will now be our third elementary school when they enter fourth grade next year. And when my daughter found out through friends there was a possibility of moving schools again, she shed a lot of tears. Tears of sadness, tears of fear, tears of nerves, and tears of friendships that she'll lose. Eventually my son found out, and while he was sad, he took the attitude of being able to meet new friends and new opportunities for change. And I thought to myself, not all change has to be bad. Not all change has to end in tears. Change can mean just that. We have new opportunities, new friendships, and new experiences. But as a school board, a school district, you play an important role in making this a pleasant change. Making the decision to change the boundaries has a ripple effect. But this is only the start. This decision leaves the home and school without key board members, parents who organize and run activities and fundraisers for the school. The decision moves parents who routinely volunteer in and out of the classroom to go to new schools. The decision ultimately eliminates 2 classrooms, which I only assume correlates to 2 teachers. While that information has not been presented, I'm assuming that 2 teachers will be without jobs or relocated with these students. I am asking you to please consider keeping Mrs. Nicole Koenig as a teacher. She's my daughter's 3rd grade teacher, and she's a long-term sub, and she is phenomenal. You don't want to lose her as a teacher in this school district. She gets my daughter, and she is not an easy child she focuses, but school is not her number 1 priority, and Miss Koenig reaches her, and she is engaged in that classroom with those children, not just my daughter, but all of the students in there. And don't forget the students who will remain at Inglewood. These students are gaining space, but they're also losing their friends. You're reducing the entire classes of kids that were with this move. Those left behind are also going to be affected. So will our children be okay? Yes. Will these changes make them stronger? Maybe. Will they make new friends? Absolutely. But this process needs to be supported by everyone, teachers, parents, principals, and including the school board. So I just ask, but we make into consideration that this please be the last time my children ever moved schools, because I don't want to have to do this again. So thank you for your attention. That's really all I wanted to say.
I'd like to just real quick respond to that, because I know that you had emailed earlier about your situation. I talked to Dr. Dietrich about it, and it's very unfortunate, the situation. Coincidentally, my daughter actually, it's for circumstances much different, but still ended up going to 3 elementary schools in her first 3 years as well. We do make a commitment to you that the group that is being moved at this point, and we understand what we've asked, the direction from the board has been and continues to be, what you're going to do, you're going to have to figure out that this is a fixed solution to this problem. It was probably the main reason why this particular option, this hybrid model, was the most appealing. Well, besides the fact that it disrupted less people than some of the other options, was that the other options included capping, and the capping we felt was a concern because we didn't know how that translated, into enrollment projections down the line. And we really did feel a commitment to the families in my community, if you know or not, that I am a member of the Inglewood community myself, that we're going to make that commitment, that you're not going to be moved again, that your children are going to have a chance to make new friends at Nash. We're going to make sure that they have an opportunity as they transition to be with those friends that they do know, as they start to branch out and make new friendships with new students in their new school community. And also, I will be at Inglewood's home and school meeting on Thursday. I was invited and I plan to attend. If you want to talk further and express any concerns, I will be there for anybody who's interested and wanting to continue the conversation.
Right.
It was in our best interest to move forward with this, because people do need certainty, and we've had a lot of conversations about it.
Sorry, I would totally agree, and I fully support the process that we've gone through. Kind of came as a little bit of surprise to us in the beginning, but I feel like we've been fairly open with communication. understanding what is going through, and you guys are faced with a decision that's not easy to make. I understand you put down what you think is the best process, and I don't want my children to have to art on cart and music on a cart either. And, you know, I know Gwinnett Square is a rather great school. You know, I've heard the reputation. I know kids that go there. So I know they'll be in good hands, and I understand what you guys have made the decision. I just want to ensure that, you know, this is the last time.
Right.
Like, I can't do this again.
Understood.
You know, and they're going to be doing it in 3 years anyway to go to middle school, and I
Right.
don't want to do anywhere in
Right.
between. Don't want to have to go through it again.
Yeah, and there's an appreciation of part of the board with the community's understanding that this is a very hard decision. This is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make because, like I said, it's not just my family, but my friends and my community, and having to stand in front of them and say, you know, we're here to make hard decisions, right? And we look at a building like Nash that's desperately needs to have bodies in it when we have Inglewood that desperately needs space. And although the answer seems obvious, right, the emotional impact that comes with making these decisions is something that's not easy to navigate. And we did try to make this process as much as possible part of a community conversation. And though we're not perfect, and though I'm sure there's still people that are disappointed, I can assure you that we really did try our best to work with the community to resolve this issue. So thank you.
Yes, I would agree. Thank you.
Your public comment inspired kind of one idea that in looking at the transition plan, you talk about transitioning parents and parent volunteers. And I think given how important parent engagement is, Betty, would it be possible for us in the transition plan just to make sure that I know that home and schools are kind of a separate entity but can we encourage the home and schools of the 3 schools to maybe come together to talk about ideas of ways that home and schools can welcome new parents that are coming in, prepare for a loss of a volunteer that might have been someone who had been so committed, and being able to transition that person, and just being able to prepare and transition and welcome that movement as well, I think would be a great addition to kind of complete that. That's very student focused, and then this would bring in that element of parent
Great.
engagement.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Yes, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment this evening?
Hi, I'm Karen Wieland. I live at 1260 Anders Road in Lansdale. I would have been impacted by the option formerly known as option 2. That was not the case, but I was listening to the transition plan, and it's good. It's very parent oriented. And one of the things, I have a son in 3rd grade and I have a son in 1st grade at Gwinnett Square, and things that they've done moving up to the next grade, you know, because moving grades is stressful too, but moving to another school is even more stressful. But the children that are in the next grade up that the kids are moving to have written letters to the kids in the previous grades that said, what are the best things about, you know, 3rd grade? So when they're moving to the next grade, they're not as nervous, they're not as scared. So my suggestion is to have the students welcoming the students and kind of have either a buddy system or, you know, just say, this is the best thing about Gwinnett Square and this is why you're going to love it here. And, you know, that will help welcome them to our Gwinnett Square community.
Thank you for the suggestion. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Okay, seeing none. I think that's all we have on the agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.